There's a silence that appears before every true transformation. It isn't loud and it doesn't announce itself. It arrives softly in the middle of your ordinary day, while you check your phone, while you wonder if things will ever change, while you secretly measure how much time has passed since you first heard about manifestation. And yet, somewhere deep inside, you know this silence is not emptiness. It's the call to remember, to stop racing against time, and finally awaken to what has always been true. You are not waiting for life to begin. Life has been waiting for you to recognize yourself. Maybe you've felt it, that quiet exhaustion that comes from doing everything right and still feeling stuck in the same place. You visualize, you affirm, you watch the signs, but something invisible keeps you on pause. You begin to believe the universe is slow, that perhaps you are missing a secret code. But the truth is simpler and more powerful. You are not battling against the universe, you are battling against the habit of forgetting who you are. The pain you feel is not failure. It is only the friction between your old self and the identity that's already forming beneath it. Neville Goddard said, "There is no one to change but self." 6 months is not the universe's delivery time. It is your stabilization period. The next 6 months are not about waiting for miracles. They are about remembering the miracle of your own consciousness. Every day within this period is a training ground for your identity, not a countdown to your manifestation. The goal is not speed. The goal is consistency, neural, emotional, vibrational consistency. Because manifestation does not answer to time, it answers to stability of being. You may not realize it, but when you say, "I'm waiting for it to happen," you're secretly declaring, "I'm not it yet." And life, being the faithful mirror it is, reflects that assumption back to you. That is why so many seekers spend years circling the same mountain of almosts, almost there, almost ready, almost worthy. But this path, this 6-month journey, is not about almosts. It is about embodiment, about the quiet, disciplined art of becoming the person for whom the dream is already natural. Science supports what ancient mystics knew. Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches that repeated emotional rehearsal literally reconditions your nervous system. When you feel a new state intensely and repeatedly, the brain rewires, the body memorizes, and the subconscious begins to treat that feeling as home. This is not fantasy. It is neuroplasticity in motion. In weeks, not decades, the body learns to live as if the unseen is already real. What Neville called living in the end is what modern neuroscience calls emotional conditioning. Two languages describing the same truth. The body believes what it feels, not what it hopes for. So the next 6 months are not about wishing harder. They are about training your nervous system to rest inside the assumption of fulfillment. Imagine them as a psychological gym. Each thought, each feeling, each small act of faith is a rep in the strengthening of your inner identity. When you catch yourself checking the clock, measuring progress, or wondering when it will come, stop and breathe. Feel the air entering your body as proof that the universe already responds to your state. You are not waiting for reality to bloom. You are cultivating the soil of consciousness that allows it to root. In this soil, time loses its power. You begin to see that manifestation is not a race, but a rhythm. It moves with you, not ahead of you. The question is no longer, when will it come, but who am I being right now? Because who you are being now is what the next 6 months will echo back. The calendar does not create change. Identity does. And when identity aligns with completion, time folds. Results appear not because they were chased, but because they were finally permitted. So let this be the beginning of your 6-month reprogramming, not of effort, but of essence. As you listen, as you breathe, let these words seep into the deeper layers of your being. Feel them not as information, but as permission. You are allowed to stop running. You are allowed to stop waiting. You are allowed to remember that everything you desire already exists in potential, vibrating at the frequency of your assumption. The universe is not measuring your progress. It is mirroring your acceptance. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel the weight of your body. Notice your breath. Inhale slowly, and as you exhale, imagine releasing every story of delay, every narrative of not yet. Feel what happens in your chest when you stop chasing and simply allow. That stillness, that peace, is not emptiness. It's alignment. It's the feeling of becoming who you've always been. 6 months from now, the external world will mirror what you decide to accept in this moment. Not because of time, but because of identity. The journey begins here, in this breath, in this awareness. Over the next chapters, we will walk through the invisible architecture of manifestation, not as seekers, but as creators remembering their own laws. For now, hold this single truth close. You are not waiting for your dream life. You are becoming the consciousness capable of sustaining it. The next 6 months are not about chasing the future. They are about training your mind, your body, and your vibration to live as if it's already done. Because it is. It always has been. And now, it's time to remember. There is a quiet addiction that most seekers never recognize, an addiction to waiting. It disguises itself as patience, as faith, as trust in divine timing. But underneath it, there is fear. Fear that if you stop waiting, if you dare to assume completion now, you might be disappointed. And so, without realizing it, you keep your dream at arm's length, believing that time will somehow bring it closer. But time doesn't deliver manifestation. Consciousness does. The longer you believe that the future holds your fulfillment, the longer you postpone its arrival. Waiting becomes a form of spiritual procrastination, a beautifully disguised hesitation to believe in your own power. Neville Goddard once said that time is the illusion created by the interval between assumption and acceptance. The moment you assume something as real, it already exists in consciousness. But when you doubt, when you check, when you measure, you stretch the illusion of time. You step outside the present creation and return to waiting. You may think you are being patient, but in truth, you are rehearsing distance. Each thought of "it's not here yet" becomes a quiet command to your reality. Stay away. Modern science reflects the same dynamic. Cognitive research reveals that anticipation triggers dopamine spikes. The brain's reward system becomes addicted to expecting instead of receiving. In other words, the thrill of "it's coming" feels emotionally safer than the peace of "it's done." Waiting becomes a loop, a familiar emotional pattern that gives you the illusion of progress while secretly affirming lack. And so the mind learns to crave the chase more than the arrival. You've been taught to dream, but not to dwell in your dream. You've been trained to visualize what you want, but not to become the one who already has it. The hidden pain in this pattern is subtle but deep. You wake up hopeful, yet by evening, you feel deflated. You believe you're doing the right things, meditating, affirming, visualizing, but a small voice whispers, "Why hasn't it happened yet?" That whisper is the echo of an old identity that doesn't believe it deserves instant alignment. It clings to waiting because waiting feels safer than receiving. It's not that you lack power, it's that you've become comfortable with postponement. Waiting is familiar, fulfillment is unknown, and the unknown always feels risky to the mind. Neville's teaching cuts through this illusion with clarity. You are not waiting for anything external to shift. You are waiting for yourself to stop waiting. Time is a mirror delay. It reflects your internal state once you stop moving in doubt. Every moment you declare "it's coming," you declare simultaneously, "it's not yet mine." And so the mirror waits too. It cannot reflect what you have not accepted. The world is not slow, it is precise. It mirrors your latest assumption with unwavering loyalty. The invitation then is not to try harder, but to change the emotional direction of your waiting. Replace the vibration of "it's on its way" with the stillness of "it's here." Speak internally, not from longing, but from ownership. Feel the sentence, "I already am." Settle into your body like a truth that doesn't need defending. Notice how your breath changes when you stop chasing. The space between inhale and exhale, that is where creation happens. Not in the noise of asking, but in the silence of knowing. You don't need to rush this awareness. You only need to remember that the universe does not respond to effort. It responds to identity. The one who waits cannot receive because waiting assumes absence. But the one who accepts now, quietly, confidently, has already become magnetic. Feel that. Feel the difference between "it's coming" and "it's done." One creates distance, the other collapses it. When you truly embody "it's done," time dissolves. Life begins to rearrange not because you begged it to, but because you stopped contradicting your own creation. There's a sacred paradox hidden here. The moment you stop needing time, everything begins to accelerate. When you stop seeking proof, proof begins to seek you. When you stop anticipating, reality catches up. Because manifestation does not happen through waiting, it happens through being. Time has no power over a consciousness that already knows itself fulfilled. So pause for a moment right here. Let the words settle deeper than thought. You are not behind. You are not late. You are simply learning to end the addiction to waiting. The second you stop searching for signs of arrival, you become the arrival itself. If these words are awakening something in you, pause for a moment. Subscribe now and keep walking this path of remembrance where manifestation becomes your natural state. Every transformation begins not with a change in circumstance, but with a shift in self-concept. The outer world bends only to the image you hold of yourself within. You can affirm wealth, love, success, or health endlessly, but if the identity behind those affirmations still whispers, "I'm not enough," the echo will always return the same emptiness. The invisible sabotage isn't in what you're asking for, it's in who you believe you are while asking. The first 30 days of manifestation are not about chasing results. They are about unmasking the identity that keeps recreating the same story. Neville Goddard captured it perfectly. Change your conception of yourself, and you will automatically change the world in which you live. The external world does not resist you, it obeys your inner definition. Self-concept is the script that reality performs without question. You are both the writer and the actor, but for too long you've been repeating old lines, beliefs inherited from family, culture, and disappointment. When you say, "I can't manifest money," or "love always leaves me," you are not describing reality. You are describing your role. And the first month of this 6-month transformation is dedicated to rewriting that role, to choosing a new internal character whose story naturally includes the life you desire. Psychology calls this the self-schema, the mental framework that determines what information you accept as true. The mind filters out anything that contradicts its current self-image. That's why opportunities often pass unnoticed, not because they weren't there, but because they didn't match the frequency of who you believe yourself to be. You cannot receive from a reality you subconsciously reject. The key is not in forcing the external to change, but in teaching your subconscious that a new version of you is safe, natural, and inevitable. This is where imagination becomes the bridge between the conscious and the subconscious. The mind learns through repetition, emotion, and imagery. In these first 30 days, nightly visualization becomes your quiet revolution, not as performance, but as remembrance. Before sleep, allow yourself to sink into the image of already being your fulfilled self. Feel how that version of you walks, speaks, breathes. What is the tone of their voice? How does it feel to wake up without worry? Don't ask the image to appear. Embody it until it feels more like memory than fantasy. As you do, neurons begin to wire in alignment with that identity. The brain, unable to distinguish between vividly imagined experience and physical reality, starts preparing your body to act in harmony with the new assumption. You are not manifesting a house. You are becoming the architect capable of building it. The goal is not to manipulate matter, but to mature identity. This first month is a sacred rehearsal, a return to the authorship of your own story. Every visualization, every gentle correction of thought, every moment of feeling "I am already it," is a new line written into your script. The subconscious does not respond to effort, it responds to familiarity. When being abundant, loved, or free feels familiar, it must externalize. Reality cannot resist the identity it believes to be real. Still, there will be moments when the old identity pulls you back, moments of doubt, guilt, or discomfort. When that happens, it isn't failure. It's feedback. The old self is dissolving and the nervous system is adjusting to new emotional frequencies. You are teaching your body that ease is safe, that worthiness is natural. The mind may protest, but the deeper self remembers. You are not creating a new version of you. You're uncovering what has always been beneath the conditioning. These 30 days are the foundation of the 6-month journey. Each day is a step away from the narrative of striving and a step toward the quiet power of being. Reality will begin to mirror this shift in small, subtle ways: new conversations, unexpected ease, different responses from others. These are not coincidences, they are reflections of your rewritten identity beginning to speak through the world. The first month is the seed, the silent declaration to existence: I no longer chase what I already am. So breathe into this new definition of self. Let it live not as a future hope, but as a current truth. The identity you nourish in these 30 days will become the soil from which every manifestation grows. And as you settle deeper into this awareness, you'll realize that you were never waiting for the dream to appear. The dream was waiting for you to recognize yourself as its source. Every creation begins as an image, not an image seen by the eyes, but one felt by the inner senses, a picture alive with emotion, texture, and certainty. Yet most people never move beyond imagining about their goal. They think of it as something distant, like a painting hanging at the end of a long hallway. They describe it, admire it, even pray to it, but they never step into it. And so, the image remains an idea instead of a reality. Manifestation requires a subtler, more intimate act. The shift from imagining about the desire to imagining from it. The moment you occupy the scene as if it were already true, the universe recognizes it as real. Neville Goddard called this living in the end, the practice of beginning with the feeling of completion. When you imagine from the end, you bypass the middle entirely. You no longer ask, "How will this happen?" because the question dissolves within the certainty of it is done. To the rational mind, this feels illogical, even irresponsible, because logic demands visible evidence before belief. But creation is not governed by logic, it's governed by law. The mind that knows itself fulfilled shapes the world to match its conviction. What you repeatedly rehearse with feeling becomes a command to your subconscious, and the subconscious is always faithful to its last instruction. Modern neuroscience mirrors this truth with astonishing precision. When the brain mentally rehearses an action, it fires the same neural circuits that would activate if the action were physically performed. The body responds as if the imagined experience were happening now. Over time, those circuits strengthen, forming new neural pathways that anchor the experience as familiar. In other words, your brain becomes trained to accept the invisible as normal. This is not wishful thinking. It is physiological conditioning. The repetition of inner experience carves new grooves in consciousness until what once felt impossible becomes inevitable. But the rehearsal must be pure, free from tension, free from effort. When you rehearse with anxiety, you program the nervous system to associate your desire with strain. But when you rehearse from calm certainty, the body learns that fulfillment is safe, natural, and familiar. Each inner scene becomes a rehearsal for peace, not striving. You are not convincing yourself that it will happen. You are allowing yourself to remember that it already has. Repetition transforms fantasy into familiarity, and familiarity is the language of the subconscious. Neville's phrase, "The end is where we begin," is more than poetry. It's a neurological truth. You start from the vibration of completion because the body must first feel what the mind declares. Once feeling and belief align, action flows organically, without pressure or resistance. Manifestation ceases to be an effortful chase and becomes a graceful synchronization between inner and outer. The body, now trained to expect the fulfilled reality, begins to move, speak, and respond as if it were already living inside it. Imagine this process as a rehearsal hall. The stage is your consciousness. Each night before sleep, the lights dim and the scene begins. You walk into your chosen reality not as a visitor but as the inhabitant. The applause, the gratitude, the relief, all of it already exists here. You don't watch yourself from afar. You are inside the body that lives the wish fulfilled. You feel the texture of the moment, the weight of certainty in your chest, the effortless rhythm of peace. And then, as you drift into sleep, your subconscious takes the script and begins its work of translation, transforming your mental rehearsal into lived experience. This is the silent technology of creation. The more you loop the scene, the more your body believes it. The more your body believes it, the more your behavior aligns without your conscious interference. You begin to choose differently, respond differently, attract differently, not because you forced change, but because you rehearsed it until it became instinct. The world then rearranges itself around your new instinctual state. Imagination is the rehearsal hall. Reality is opening night. What you practice internally is what life eventually performs for you. If your mind rehearses doubt, fear, and longing, that is the play that unfolds. If your mind rehearses gratitude, completion, and ease, that becomes your masterpiece. The law is impersonal and exact. You cannot escape the roles you've rehearsed most often, but you can choose new ones. And so in this chapter of your transformation, let imagination be the sacred space where you practice certainty. Let every repetition become a rehearsal of remembrance. You are not trying to create what doesn't exist. You are reacquainting yourself with what has always been real. The invisible must first be accepted before it can be seen. When your inner rehearsal becomes your home, reality has no choice but to move in and live there with you. The greatest obstacle to manifestation is the silent habit of checking for proof. Each time you look for signs, measure results, or ask, "Has it worked yet?" you affirm its absence. What feels like faith is often fear disguised as control. Reality mirrors not desire, but stability, and checking interrupts that stability. Neville Goddard taught that persistence means remaining inwardly steady, not endlessly repeating or forcing belief. True persistence is quiet conviction, the calm knowing that the unseen is already real. The universe doesn't respond to effort. It responds to consistency of state. Science agrees. Intermittent reward breeds emotional instability. Constant anticipation keeps the nervous system in oscillation, while sustained certainty reprograms it for peace. So the next 6 months are not a race for results, but a refinement of inner rhythm. Measure your transformation, not by outcomes, but by who you are becoming. Notice moments of ease replacing tension, gratitude replacing impatience. Growth, like hair, unfolds silently until suddenly it's visible. When you no longer need to check, you are aligned. For the moment you stop waiting for proof is the moment proof begins to appear. Words alone rarely change reality. You can repeat affirmations 1,000 times, but if the body does not feel their truth, the subconscious treats them as noise. The language of creation is not verbal, it is emotional. Neville Goddard revealed this in his simplest statement. Feeling is the secret. The feeling of completion carries more magnetic power than endless repetition of hope. The subconscious accepts what is emotionally charged, not what is intellectually declared. Neuroscience confirms this. Emotion marks experience as real within the memory system, imprinting the body with new instruction. Each genuine feeling of gratitude, relief, or fulfillment signals the nervous system to align with that reality. You are not convincing the universe. You are conditioning your cells to believe. To manifest is to generate the emotional signature of what you desire before any physical evidence appears. Gratitude felt as if the wish were fulfilled is a frequency of completion, not desire. In that vibration, lack dissolves and attraction begins. Words may start the ignition, but emotion drives the movement. When the body believes, the world follows. Feel first, and you command the invisible. For emotion is the Wi-Fi between your mind and the field, the bridge that makes the unseen real. Many believe that manifestation requires relentless effort, as if the universe rewards exhaustion. But over-effort is not devotion, it is distrust. The need to push, strive, and control reveals a hidden belief that life must be coerced to cooperate. Yet true creation moves in silence, not strain. The invisible forces that shape your world respond to inner coherence, not outer struggle. When you act from tension, you signal lack. When you rest in assurance, you broadcast sufficiency. Neville Goddard described creation as a psychological movement, not a physical one. What transforms reality is the shift of state, not the volume of action. Modern science mirrors this truth. Chronic stress restricts neuroplasticity, narrowing the brain's capacity to perceive new possibilities. Overwork does not open doors, it blinds you to them. The creative mind thrives in relaxed attention, where intuition can rise and guide the next effortless step. Manifestation unfolds like respiration, the exhale after the inhale of intention. You plant the seed of desire and then allow the soil of consciousness to do its work. Action, when it comes, is inspired, not desperate. The more you rest in trust, the faster life arranges itself around your calm. Creation has never required your strain, only your surrender. Fear often appears just as transformation begins. It is not punishment or resistance, it is memory. The mind fears expansion only because the new identity feels unfamiliar. You are not battling darkness. You are meeting the boundaries of what you once called safe. The old self trembles, not because you are unworthy, but because it senses its own end. Neville Goddard said, "You must feel natural in your new state." Manifestation is not the leap from fear to courage. It is the gradual normalization of greatness. When the new self stops feeling foreign, reality adjusts accordingly. The nervous system learns through repetition. Exposure to higher emotions rewires it to associate abundance and peace with safety. Familiarity replaces fear, not through force, but through repeated embodiment. Each time you think, feel, or act as your fulfilled self, you are teaching the body that expansion is home. Over time, what once triggered anxiety begins to feel ordinary, and that ordinariness is power. The butterfly does not fear flight because it remembers crawling as a dream. You are remembering in the same way. Fear fades when fulfillment becomes your baseline, and what once felt impossible starts to feel inevitable. When life seems to resist your desires, it is not defying you, it is reflecting you. Reality is not a test to pass, but a mirror to read. Every circumstance, pleasant or painful, reveals your most stable assumption about who you are. What you experience is not random, it is an echo of your last accepted truth. The universe does not judge, it repeats. Neville Goddard taught that the world outside is yourself pushed out. When you understand this, you stop reacting to appearances and begin revising from within. Each event becomes information, not evidence against you. If a door closes, it is not rejection. It is feedback, gently showing where you have still believed in limitation. By meeting that reflection with awareness instead of frustration, you reclaim authorship of the narrative. Psychology names this process confirmation bias. The mind perceives what it already assumes to be true, but spiritual mastery lies in using that same law consciously. When you alter the inner belief, perception follows. Life cannot help but adjust its reflection. Reality is not testing your faith, it is training your focus. Once you stop panicking at reflections, the mirror softens and the world begins to respond to your peace. There are two sacred thresholds each day when the mind opens most deeply to creation, the moments just before sleep and just after waking. These transitions between wakefulness and rest are the gateways to the subconscious, where imagination and reality merge. In these quiet states, thought becomes imprint and emotion becomes instruction. What you repeatedly feel during these windows is what the subconscious accepts as true. Neville Goddard called this the state akin to sleep. It is the borderland between conscious control and surrender, the place where your inner movie plays without resistance. Neuroscience now confirms that during these moments, the brain produces theta waves, slow, suggestive frequencies that bypass analytical filters and reprogram the nervous system. Here you are most impressionable, most magnetic, most aligned with creation itself. Every night, the subconscious reviews your last dominant feeling and projects it onto the canvas of tomorrow. When you end the day embodying fulfillment, you plant a new cause in the fertile soil of the unseen. Night is not rest, it is the editing room of consciousness, where the story is rewritten before it reaches the stage of form. In those silent moments, assumption becomes destiny. The final phase of manifestation is surrender, not effort. Checking progress only affirms delay, release affirms arrival. Neville Goddard's law remains clear. Live in the end. To live from the end is to rest in certainty, allowing reality to conform to your inner completion. When you embody fulfillment, you collapse time, because the fulfilled self exists outside of waiting. Even science echoes this. The observer's state determines what becomes visible. When you stop seeking proof, creation is free to unfold. Like the kettle that boils once it's forgotten, manifestation completes itself the instant you cease to watch. You don't create the future, you remember it. Manifestation is not about attracting what is missing, it is the remembrance of what already exists in consciousness. You are not creating the future, but awakening to the version of yourself that already lives it. Neville Goddard taught that creation is finished. Every outcome exists, waiting for your assumption to make it visible. Dr. Bruce Lipton's work in epigenetics mirrors this truth. Belief reshapes biology. The body responds to perception, reorganizing itself to match your inner conviction. When the mind accepts abundance or peace as natural, the cells follow, and reality echoes that inner state. The past 6 months have not been a waiting period, but a reprogramming of identity. Through repetition, stillness, and emotional truth, you have trained the nervous system to recognize fulfillment as familiar. Manifestation becomes effortless when ease replaces striving. You no longer manifest by reaching forward, but by remembering backward into what is already done. The future you once sought is the self you have now stabilized. You are not chasing light. You are turning toward it.